What's up, YouTube? Ryan Pandy here. Hope you guys are doing reasonably well. It is time for a review of the new Code Orange record, Underneath, out last Friday the 13th. Code Orange kids are now Code Orange adulting, and they're doing so to a lot of critical acclaim. Their last record, Forever, which I reviewed on this channel, was hailed as a kind of changing of the guard for metalcore and for the mainstream metal and hardcore landscapes in general. I, however, was one of the holdouts who wasn't really that crazy about that record. To me, it felt new, it felt fresh, but it also felt like they hadn't really worked out all the kinks yet. It felt immature. Ironically, they had removed kids from their name at this point, but at times it kind of felt like kids just lashing out and making noise and not quite sure where to aim that. They weren't sure if they wanted to be an abrasive hardcore band or alt metal. They also tinkered with some industrial sounds, but obviously not enough for that classification. There was just a lack of direction and cohesion from where I was sitting. In retrospect, I most enjoyed songs on that record like New Reality, where they just picked a lane and they went for it. But yeah, I stand my ground on that record. I always give myself plenty of room to be wrong, and in the 3 years since Forever's came out, I actually like it less than when I initially reviewed it. And to be frank, I think part of that general hype around this band is the fact that, you know, once a year, a bunch of hipster, noisy, and pitchfork writers get together and they all decide they're gonna prop up one token metal band just to keep some skin in the game, even though they're not really in touch with the metal scene at large. So if you look back, you know, Deaf Heaven definitely got their turn. Power Trip got theirs. Vector got a shot at this. Mastodon they liked for like 5 minutes. Code Orange got their turn as well. And those are all bands I enjoy, let's be clear, but I think part of the Code Orange hype being so massive is just tokenism on the part of hipster music writers who mostly listen to Radiohead. All that being said, I was excited and intrigued by Forever. I would love nothing more going into Underneath than to see the band take a big step in their evolution and live up to all that hype. And man, this record is making me so glad that I held out on Forever, because it is so much better and significantly more forward-thinking. Code Orange on Underneath, they sound like a fully evolved metalcore band from the future. Listening to this record, it makes the general mainstream metalcore orthodoxy. Think, you know, Parkway Drive, Deep Blue, or the Trivium Ascendancy Formula, or Killswitch Engage, whoever. It makes all that feel like the distant past now. Not that any of those records are bad or even irrelevant now, it's just that Underneath really feels like a page being turned in this general world where metal and hardcore intersect. I gotta imagine it's kind of similar to how people felt when they first heard Converge's Jane Doe record, just that sense of the playbook being wiped clean and here's something you're not used to. Which ironically, the stylistic fingerprints of Jane Doe are all over this record, that manic yet precise brand of metalcore. Also, to a lesser extent, Dillinger's Calculating Infinity clearly had an influence here. And while the core of what Code Orange do is much more palatable and much less technically advanced than a Dillinger or Converge, they combine the usual drums and guitars and bass with this barrage of effects and glitches and sound bites and just general industrial chaos, to the point where all this combines to make Code Orange's music just as much of an assault on the senses as a Dillinger or a Converge. And the first two proper tracks on here, Swallowing the Rabbit Hole and In Fear, they exemplify that perfectly. They knock you off balance right out of the gate as a listener, which frees Code Orange up going forward to be as out of the box or as conventional as they want to, because you already don't know quite what to expect. And speaking of assaults on the senses, what's interesting is this record is actually at its strongest when Code Orange just abandoned melody altogether. Like, vocally speaking, commercially viable metalcore typically includes the screaming and singing duality, and Code Orange here, again, as they did on Forever, they alternate between a sort of a whiny post-hardcore clean vocal and a ferocious screaming vocal. But it's the songs on here like Erasure Scan and Last One's Left and Back Inside the Glass, which is maybe my favorite, You and You Alone as well. It's those songs where the clean vocals are either conspicuously absent or just sort of peppered in, where I think the band is actually at their best. Notice how tracks like Back Inside the Glass, or You and You Alone especially, or In Fear, these tracks have these weirdly catchy, harsh vocal hooks that are completely intelligible. You can hear every word that is being uttered. They're in no way monotonous. It becomes very clear that this band doesn't need clean singing like a lot of similar bands do to fill some sort of void. There's already so much atmosphere to these songs with the industrial elements. There's already so much variety compositionally. There's already so much to, like I said, keep you off balance. So that kind of frees Code Orange up from a very tired 21st century metalcore formula. The downside of what I'm saying is that I think a couple of weaker tracks on here, like a Sliver or Who I Am, although Who I Am does have a very cool dystopian take on the social media age, these songs are hampered by these kind of unnecessary whiny choruses that, as I've sort of explained already, don't really need to be there. The upside though is thanks to all those pummeling, scream heavy cuts that I love that I've already mentioned, a lot of the time when the band do open up that melodic vocal lane, it feels welcome and it feels fresh because it's not based on some sort of formula. Like, I love the title track, which obviously has massive crossover potential. Sulfur Surrounding is powerful, and that in the chorus, those natural harmonics totally make it. Also, Easy Way, very cool song. So because they're able to pull those clean vocals back on these other songs, they're able to make it count elsewhere for the most part. And I will reiterate that I love the attention to atmosphere on this record. Not just the effects and the sound bites, which do set a certain, I would say, futuristic mood, but with the instruments themselves. Like, the use of lead guitars on this album is fucking brilliant. You won't hear a shreddy guitar solo anywhere, but what you will hear on tracks like Who I Am and A Sliver and The Easy Way is these ringing lead guitars that set this very colorful backdrop in these songs. It's very creative. And I do love the digital effects too. A song like Back Inside the Glass, which again is a favorite of mine here. In the middle section of that song, those effects just, it feels like insects swarming all around you. It adds a lot of layers to an otherwise pretty stale genre. So again, I'm very pleased with the band's comfort in their own skin on this record, with their determination to be unorthodox, with their impressive ability to make memorable and accessible music without compromising, and while making relatively sparing and calculated use of clean vocals with a couple exceptions. And this record is full of top-notch inventive riffing. It's not like all these added effects are there to sort of compensate or cover up a lack of structural integrity within the songs. Quite the opposite, actually. There's a beautiful blend of metal and hardcore at sort of the nucleus of these songs. And then all the added digital effects and the industrial elements and the occasional dips into other genres are like tentacles extending out of an already rock-solid body. Yeah, Code Orange totally won me over here. This record is forward-thinking. It's really mean and in your face without being brutish. It constantly keeps you guessing and leaves these little cracks for melody to seep through. I personally think the band need clean vocals even less than they realize, but they are generally very intelligent about how to use them and where to use them. These guys really came into their own here, and I hope that more major label metal bands have the courage to break free from what's safe and what's comfortable, because Underneath goes to show that if you just keep trying to push the genre forward, people like me are gonna keep coming to the table, are gonna keep being curious, and you might eventually win them over. Underneath gets an 8 out of 10 for me. As always, thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video and are not yet subscribed to this channel, please consider doing so by clicking right over here, as well as checking out any of the other rock or metal related content that I publish here on a weekly basis. I really appreciate you guys watching, liking, disliking, just engaging in any fashion. Twitter, Instagram handle @RyanPandyMusic. Again, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you soon.